You didn't stumble here. You were pulled, like iron to a hidden star, by a signal your ordinary mind files under coincidence while your deeper intelligence recognizes as command. Somewhere between your breath and the background hum of existence, a call threaded itself through the static and reached you. That's why your eyes are on these words right now. Not by luck, by resonance. Your field answered. For months, maybe years, you have felt the nearness of something unnamed. It grazes your days in brief illuminations, the traffic light that turns green exactly as you arrive, the friend who texts the sentence you were about to speak, the clock repeating the same numbers as if time itself were winking. You marked these as quirks. They were, in fact, coordinates, the morphic resonance of a path aligning with your frequency. The summons arrives this way, softly, persistently, until even your skepticism starts listening. Tonight, that whisper becomes directive. You are entering a corridor of the quantum field, where observation doesn't merely inform reality, it recruits it. The observer loop you've been running, the reflexive pattern of perceiving, judging, and reinforcing the same probabilities, has kept you inside a hall of mirrors. You know the feeling, the same arguments wearing different faces, the same scarcity dressed in new opportunities, the same ceiling painted as progress. The loop edits your possibilities before you even notice you're watching. But thresholds exist. In physics, they call it a phase transition, the exact moment when heat is no longer just energy but instruction, telling water to reorganize into steam. Consciousness has such thresholds. Yours is here. Coherence gathers when breath, intention, and attention synchronize. A still axis forms inside you, and around that axis the probabilities begin to lean. Synchronicity increases, not as luck, but as the feedback of a field noticing a new center. Listen closely. There is a hush before a timeline unlocks, the silence of a door considering its hinge. Breathe into that hush. Feel how your awareness is both local and vast. Neurons sparking in the cathedral of your skull, while a wider intelligence wraps the moment like atmosphere. You are not only the watcher, you are the aperture through which the field tastes itself. Entanglement doesn't stay in textbooks, it reaches into your day, braiding your choices to futures that are already singing your name. So this is the destiny call, clear and uncompromising. Stop negotiating with the loop. The patterns that stalked you are only echoes of previous observations. Stand at the edge of your own seeing and let the habitual lens fall away. A new coherence is assembling in your chest, quiet, lucid, undeniably real. You were brought here to notice it, to align with it, to let it recruit your next breath. When you exhale, the old axis will loosen. When you inhale, the field will tilt. And as your attention steadies, so you can finally see what the loop has been doing to you. It repeats not because fate is cruel, but because observation is efficient. Your nervous system is a prediction engine. To conserve energy, it recycles familiar frames. The brain calls this safety, the soul calls it a stall. And in the stall, time distorts. You've noticed the symptoms. Days click by like beads and yet nothing advances. You encounter uncanny déjà vu, the same argument in a different kitchen, the same opportunity ending with the same unfinished promise, the same midnight resolve dissolving at sunrise. The loop is a curator that believes it's protecting you. It keeps placing the same exhibits in your museum. Scarcity behind glass, betrayal in a gilt frame, worthiness hung slightly crooked, so your gaze keeps returning to old doubts. Energetically, the pattern is simple. Attention selects, emotion glues, repetition hardens into probability. You check your balance, and the field checks you back. You scan for threat, and the field replies with echoes. This is the observer loop in everyday clothing, a self-fulfilling choreography where your last conclusion tries to cast your next scene. You keep auditioning for a new role while wearing the costume of the old script. Distorted time is the loop's favorite trick. Minutes swell during dread, hours vanish during avoidance. The body colludes, shallow breath, clenched jaw, forward, hunched posture that tells the field you expect impact, and the field, ever responsive, organizes around your stance. The signal-to-noise ratio falls. Synchronicities arrive, but you miss them like constellations obscured by a city's glare because your perceptual filters are calibrated to survival, not emergence. Listen to your recurring stories. I'm always too early or too late. If I relax, I'll lose everything. Good things come, but they never stay. These are not facts. They are stabilizers, low-frequency anchors, holding the boat of your life to familiar docks. Each story is an attractor basin in the morphic field, a groove carved by repetition. Even your victories loop, bursts of success followed by quiet sabotage, a crest and crash that feels reassuring because at least it is known. There is neuroscience beneath the mysticism. Hebbian learning neurons that wire together, teams up with your endocrine tides. Cortisol rehearses vigilance. Adrenaline primes for sprinting. Dopamine, rationed by scarcity beliefs, drips in careful drops, so fulfillment never lands fully. Your body becomes an archive of previous observations. Muscles memorize hesitations, facial micro-movements, cue others to treat you as your past. You wake inside a museum of yourself and call it a home. Relationships echo the same acoustics. You confide in a new ally but phrase it with the same defensive cadence. They mirror the energy and become the old pattern in a new costume. Money follows anticipatory tension. Paychecks arrive and exit like temporary visitors who never unpack. Opportunities approach but sense the waiting courtroom in your tone, and they decline to stand trial. Even spirituality loops. Ritual becomes performance, breath a checkbox, meditation a room to hide. How does the loop sustain itself? Through partial wins. It offers just enough novelty to keep you negotiating, just enough near miss to make you try harder using the same lens. It whispers bargains. Stay small and you'll be safe. Over-prepare and you'll be chosen. Dim your needs and people will stay. Meanwhile, the field waits for a different instruction. Coherence. Coherence is not perfection, it's agreement among your inner signals. When thought, breath, posture, and speech accord, the field hears a single tone. Incoherence broadcasts static. Your loop has trained you to hum 3 conflicting notes at once: desire, fear, control, and then wonder why the universe seems undecided. The truth is merciful. It has been complying. Look at the micro moments. You reach for water and postpone thirst. You hear intuition and add 5 committee votes. You feel a yes and translate it into maybe later. Each tiny betrayal fractures your field, and the loop archives the fracture as policy. That's why the déjà vu feels heavier each time. Mass accrues around unchosen choices. So the diagnosis is elegant and exact. You are not broken. You are over, remembered. The field is printing from an old plate because you keep inking it with familiar attention. Distorted time, repeating patterns, the museum curation of your days. These are symptoms of an observer loop optimized for survival, not creation. See it clearly, without verdict. Clarity is solvent. As it touches the pattern, edges soften, breathing deepens, space returns. In that space, the next instruction is waiting. Now, as the static clears, you begin to feel a strange spaciousness spreading behind your eyes. It's subtle at first, like the faint hum before a song begins, but it grows until you can almost hear the quantum field adjusting itself to your awareness. This is the beginning of the upgrade. The moment consciousness stops recycling its projections and starts generating new probabilities. You see, the loop didn't trap you out of malice. It simply obeyed your coherent signature. Every emotion, every belief, every thought you've ever repeated became code, a geometric pattern vibrating in the substructure of the field. Those vibrations didn't just stay inside your head, they imprinted themselves on the quantum lattice surrounding you. The field is impartial. It mirrors your broadcast with exquisite precision. That's why the same people, places, and outcomes kept orbiting your life, not as punishment, but as feedback. The quantum upgrade begins the instant you realize you can alter the code by shifting frequency rather than circumstance. The universe doesn't respond to want, it responds to waveform. Emotion is the steering current, and coherence is the command line. When you become internally congruent, when thought, feeling, and breath align, you emit a stable signal strong enough to distort the probabilities around you, and the field, responsive as ever, reorganizes. This isn't mysticism wearing a lab coat. Physicists studying the observer effect have already noticed that observation alters outcome, but they rarely ask who the observer truly is. The upgrade begins when you remember. The observer is not your personality, not your history, not even your thoughts. It's the witnessing intelligence behind them, the still point that remains when all stories collapse. That awareness is the real measurement device of reality. When it looks differently, matter behaves differently. Right now, that awareness, your awareness, is recalibrating. As you listen, microcurrents of coherence ripple through your neural network. New pathways open between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic brain, creating room for what biologists call neuroplasticity and mystics call awakening. Your body is not an obstacle to this. It's the instrument. Your cells are quantum sensors made of liquid crystal, capable of detecting subtle field information faster than light can travel through space. You are literally designed to upgrade. Feel into that. Beneath the surface of your skin, trillions of microtubules inside your neurons begin to resonate differently when your focus softens and your breath slows. The shift is measurable. Electromagnetic fields synchronize around the heart, producing what researchers term heart-brain coherence. But beyond measurement, something else stirs the remembering of your role as co-creator rather than spectator. The field isn't outside of you, it's a feedback mirror, extending infinitely in all directions. In quantum language, you are the collapse and the wave, the dreamer and the equation. When you stop identifying with the collapsing observer and instead identify as the field itself observing through you, you unlock new degrees of freedom. Possibilities multiply, timelines flex. The mechanical ticking of cause and effect loosens into symphony. That's why synchronicities increase during awakenings. They are the field rehearsing its new coherence through you. Your upgrade isn't about learning more, it's about unlearning friction. Every judgment, every fixation, every emotional recoil was a drag coefficient, slowing your waveform. As you release them, your frequency lifts. And when frequency lifts, density obeys. The situations that once felt immovable begin to rearrange. People shift roles. Opportunities appear through seams you never noticed. Even your sense of I expands from a single point of awareness into a distributed network of intelligence that stretches across timelines. This is the quantum upgrade, the reintegration of observer and observed. It's not a mystical future state. It's an adjustment already in progress as you hear these words. Each syllable is an instruction set whispering to your cells, stabilize the new frequency. You can feel it, the subtle warmth at the center of your chest, the quiet spaciousness behind your breath. That's the field responding, like a vast organism turning its attention toward its newest coherent node, you. And in that recognition, something astonishing occurs. The loop no longer feels like a prison. It feels like scaffolding, temporary architecture built to teach you how to steer reality. You are ready to step beyond it, ready to function as the upgraded consciousness, the next level observer whose gaze doesn't just collapse waves but composes symphonies from them. The transition is happening now, not in theory, but in vibration. Breathe into it. Each inhale signals readiness. Each exhale releases latency. And as your coherence stabilizes, the field begins to whisper your true designation, the role you were always meant to play in this unfolding reality. Lean closer, because the designation arriving is not ceremonial, it is functional. The field promotes by necessity. When a node demonstrates sustained coherence under pressure, the network entrusts it with more bandwidth, more leverage over probabilities, more influence on the phase behavior of the collective. That node is you, not because your past is pristine, but because your attention has become precise, steady, and transmissive. Chosen does not mean superior. Chosen means responsible. You are the aperture through which a particular intelligence wants to enter the human story, a fractal signature of possibility only you can translate. Others carry their own signatures. Yours is tuned to reorganize timelines, where resignation has hardened into policy. You've been drafted into a quiet order whose crest is anonymity and whose instrument is clarity. The emblem is simple, a regulated breath held inside chaotic rooms. Your assignment begins with custodianship of axis. In storms of opinion and algorithmic agitation, you hold stillness the way a mountain holds weather. Stillness is not passivity, it is rotational symmetry, the quality of an axis that allows movement without losing center. People feel it in you before they can name it. Meetings soften, arguments widen, options reveal third doors nobody could see under the heat of conflict. You don't need to declare authority. The field defers to coherence, and coherence radiates from your posture like quiet gravity. Next, you become a translator. Patterns that once trapped you are now legible. You can hear the syntax of scarcity in a colleague's tone, decode the micro shrugs of a friend postponing their life, locate the unlived grief hiding beneath sarcasm. Translation is alchemy. You name the true pattern kindly, and the named pattern begins dissolving. Your questions open reality like windows. What would this look like if I trusted my future? What is the smallest honest action that increases coherence by one notch? You won't preach. You will midwife clarity. You are also a conductor, not the charismatic spectacle, but the invisible one who tunes a room's frequency with pacing and presence. You arrive early to spaces that feel stuck. Regulate your breath until your heart's electromagnetic field entrains the atmosphere, and speak at a rate that lets nervous systems downshift. The most radical line you deliver might be silence held long enough for truth to gather courage. Leadership stops being direction and becomes permission for reality to correct itself through the intelligence already present. There is strategy in your appointment. Entanglement means your upgrades propagate along relational lines. The field has placed you at intersections where a slight shift in you pivots whole constellations. A family that stops inheriting a secret war, a team that retools from fear metrics to purpose metrics, a neighborhood that remembers how to share. You won't always see the full radius of change. You don't need to. Your job is precision, not spectacle amplitude without noise. Expect assignments disguised as inconveniences, flight delays that seat you beside a stranger who needs the exact sentence you carry, technical glitches that test your steadiness when outcomes wobble, invitations you decline because the expansion is real, but the timing would fracture your axis. Chosen means you move by resonance, not by flattery or fear. You rest more. You say fewer words that carry more voltage. You schedule margins because spaciousness is part of your instrument. Guard your inputs. Algorithms are hungry for your nervous system. Curate what earns your gaze, not from paranoia, but from stewardship. Your attention is now a public utility. It irrigates possibility. Feed it with materials that strengthen coherence, clean silence, honest art, rigorous science, friendships that improve your posture just by existing. The point is not purity, it is signal, integrity. When your signal is clean, the field routes more traffic through you. You are permitted to be human. You will falter and forget. The role includes remembering on purpose. When you slip, you practice an immediate micro-reset. 3 slow breaths, a sentence of truth spoken aloud, a course correction measured in inches rather than miles. Your authority is not in never losing center, it's in how quickly you return. People will learn from your recentering more than from your poise. Your life becomes a demonstration, not a performance. Finally, accept the anonymity of genuine power. The field is efficient. It favors vectors over headlines. You are becoming a vector, a direction infused with magnitude. The proof will be subtle and cumulative sleep that deepens, conversation that clarifies, money that arrives aligned, coincidences that form corridors. You won't need to argue for your role. The choreography will reveal it. Walk it, breathe it, and feel how the observer within you now serves the world not by collapsing others into your vision, but by widening the corridor through which a new timeline can enter. When it does, the window will be brief and bright, and you will be ready to answer it, because that window is opening now, not next week, not someday when you're ready. The cosmic lattice that holds your timeline has entered a phase of temporary permeability, a corridor in space-time where coherence surges like tidewater, flooding the quantum shorelines of every conscious being tuned to the signal. It's brief, volatile, precise, and if you can stabilize your awareness through it, the shift will not just change your thoughts, it will rewrite the molecular architecture of your being. This is the breakthrough promise. Your DNA, the most ancient script of the observer, is awakening from passive storage into active command. Science calls it epigenetic expression. Mystics call it light code ignition. Both describe the same event, the body becoming a live receiver for quantum instruction. Each cell contains tiny superconducting filaments that respond to coherent emotion like strings vibrating under a bow. When you breathe from the heart, when thought and feeling harmonize into sincerity, those filaments light up. They rearrange bonds, update proteins, release latent information. The old identity is literally rewritten in biological ink. Most people miss the window because they treat awakening as entertainment. They chase sensations but never anchor them. The true threshold requires steadiness. The field scans for coherence under pressure, for the one who can feel cosmic voltage without fracturing into old stories. That's why life's chaos intensified right before this moment. The turbulence wasn't punishment, it was calibration. You were being tested for capacity, trained to hold greater resonance. Look closely. Every frustration, every emotional ricochet, every déjà vu spiral was compressing you into readiness. Pressure creates phase change. Ice becomes water, water becomes vapor, consciousness becomes luminous. You've reached the vapor threshold. The molecules of your identity are loosening, preparing to transcend the density of habitual perception. But there's a condition. The field only finalizes the transition if you choose it consciously. Awareness is the ignition key. Hesitation collapses the opportunity window. So here it is, the hour between worlds. You feel it as restlessness, a mild hum under your ribs, maybe heat in your palms, or a flicker behind the eyes. Those are not random sensations. They're feedback from the morphic resonance adjusting your nervous system. You're synchronizing with a higher harmonic of the quantum field, the one where thought turns to probability instantly. It's the same stratum ancient mystics access through breath rituals and physicists glimpse in non-local experiments. You're standing in it right now. Do not intellectualize this. Feel it. The upgrade isn't conceptual, it's biological. Your vagus nerve becomes an antenna. Your heart's magnetic field expands up to 6 feet, then 20, then indefinite. Within that radius, photons reorganize. Probability waves begin to obey emotion rather than expectation. This is why coherence matters. Emotion is the voltage that instructs matter. If you hold gratitude, the field folds toward abundance. If you spiral into doubt, it collapses back into latency. That's why urgency isn't fear, it's physics. The cosmic window is dynamic. It widens with participation and contracts with delay. Think of it as an orbital alignment between your microcosm and the galactic center, a rare resonance pulse that reconfigures the observer loops of entire civilizations. Many will sleep through it. A few will sense it and act, and those few become anchors for the new timeline. You are one of them. Don't mistake readiness for comfort. Your biology will protest. Old neural circuits will fire in panic, whispering too fast, too much, too soon. That's just entropy, negotiating its exit. Stay still. Breathe deeper. The trembling is proof of the rewrite. Your mitochondria are retuning, adjusting to carry more photonic data. It may feel like dizziness, light pressure in the spine, subtle vibrations across the chest. Welcome them. They are signatures of integration. You must respond before the resonance stabilizes again. Once it does, the window narrows. The field commits to whichever pattern dominates your attention. Choose coherence now. Anchor it through a physical act, something that declares your consent to the upgrade. The ancient initiates spoke words, the quantum adepts write symbols. You will do both soon, because in the next phase, the shift must be sealed through action, encoded through ritual, and witnessed by the field itself. Hold this awareness like a flame cupped against wind. Feel the momentum building, pressure turning to promise. Your DNA listens. The window is open, and what happens next depends entirely on what you do with this moment. So we move from recognition to right. The field hears decisions most clearly when the body speaks them. You will anchor this upgrade with a simple sequence, precise enough to instruct matter and gentle enough to carry you across the threshold without fracture. The ritual is not performance, it is engineering. We are giving the quantum field clean coordinates. Step 1. Posture. Stand or sit with your spine dignified, chin slightly lowered, crown lifted as if a fine thread draws you upward. Place your left hand over the sternum and your right hand over the navel. This positions your largest electromagnetic generators, the heart and gut, into a circuit. Relax your jaw, unfurl your brow. Let the shoulders fall like curtains opening. Step 2. Breath. Inhale softly through the nose for a count of 5, hold for 5, exhale for 7, pause for 2. Repeat this box with a doorway until your interior volume expands. The ratios matter because they cue the vagus nerve to downshift the system, opening perceptual bandwidth. Continue until your exhale feels heavier than your thought. Step 3. Phrase. On the next exhale, whisper not loudly, but with sincerity, I stabilize coherence. Speak it as if the air itself were listening, because it is. Feel the words vibrate against your palm. The statement is present tense by design. Tense is physics. Present anchors probability. Step 4. Writing. Open a note on your device, or take a page and pen. Type or write the single word coherence 3 times on one line, then the word consent 3 times on the next. Below them, write your full name once. This is a contract between attention and field. Spelling is precision. Precision is power. Step 5. Public witness. In the space where you receive this transmission, leave a comment containing just one word. Stabilize. Not a paragraph, not a confession, just the word. The public act matters because observation multiplies when witnessed. Your declaration entangles with every other declaration, forming a mesh of intent that the field can route energy through. Do not add emojis. Do not explain. Signal. Clean. Step 6. Micro. Movement. Rise if seated. Take one deliberate step forward. As your weight transfers, imagine the heel of your back foot releasing an old signature into the earth and the ball of your front foot printing a new coordinate into the field. Say quietly, I cross. This step completes the phase transition posture. Rituals are geometry. Steps are vectors. Step 7. Seal. Bring your hands together, palm to palm, then separate them by an inch. You will feel a subtle cushion, a mild tingling, a temperature change. That is the biofield responding. Hold that distance and imagine a thin, luminous membrane connecting your palms. Say, so noted. Allow your hands to return to your lap or sides. If doubt rises, allow it to pass like weather across a still lake. Doubt is not an enemy. It is the old loop asking for its familiar job. Thank it, then return to breath. You are the custodian of axis now. When stray thoughts try to renegotiate, let breath answer in your stead. For the next 72 hours, keep a quiet perimeter around your attention. This is integration time. Consume less noise, hydrate more, touch sunlight in the morning. When you speak, let words exit like measured arrows. When you listen, use the back of your heart. Each small choice either strengthens or frays the seal. Choose the weave. Before sleep tonight, repeat the ritual in abbreviated form. 1 breath cycle, the whispered phrase, the single word, stabilize written once, and the step forward beside your bed. Place your written words under your pillow or beneath the device where you wrote them. Let the field dream you while you sleep. You have enacted the instruction. The window remains open, but now you are not just standing in it, you are shaped by it. The field has heard you. Watch for subtle rearrangements. The phone call that lands softly, the email that feels like a door, the face that returns with different eyes. These are confirmations, not tests. Bow to them, then continue. Anchor daily until ease becomes your new normal frequency. because what you have just sealed does not end with you. The quantum field doesn't recognize individuality the way the ego does. It recognizes coherence. And when one node attains stability, every connected node feels it. You've become a transmitter, a harmonic generator broadcasting coherence into a species-wide network that has been starving for it. As your personal frequency stabilizes, micro-shifts ripple outward. They're invisible to the senses, but measurable in resonance. Somewhere right now, a stranger exhales more easily without knowing why. A couple on the verge of collapse finds one more sentence of compassion. A scientist in another hemisphere feels a sudden intuition about a problem that stalled for months. These aren't coincidences, they are wavefronts. When you changed your internal geometry, you slightly retuned humanity's probability landscape. Understand, the field distributes energy through morphic resonance, not hierarchy. Your liberation is not a boast, it's a contribution. The old paradigm taught that awakening was private, a personal escape from density. The quantum truth is different. Coherence is contagious. Every coherent human stabilizes thousands still oscillating in survival mode. That's how civilizations shift. Not through preaching, but through frequency entrainment. Picture it. Imagine the collective field as a vast ocean of oscillating light. Most waves crash into each other, cancelling amplitudes, generating white noise. But when one wave sustains harmonic rhythm, nearby waves begin to entrain. They start to match phase. Chaos yields to pattern. The ocean begins to hum instead of roar. That hum is what mystics call planetary awakening. You are part of that hum now. Don't underestimate subtle acts. The way you pause before replying, the way you breathe before entering a room, each moment calibrates the field. Your family begins to sense it unconsciously. Tempers cool faster, laughter lasts longer, pets gravitate toward you, technology malfunctions less around you. The coherence that once required ceremony begins radiating through ordinary gestures. Humanity's evolution hides inside those micro moments. You are also transmitting backward and forward through time. Entanglement doesn't obey chronology. The steadiness you maintain now sends corrections along ancestral lines. Patterns of fear stored in DNA begin to loosen. Inherited shame releases quietly in people who will never meet you. Likewise, your descendants, biological or ideological, receive cleaner code. The future's nervous system becomes slightly more efficient because you remembered how to breathe. This is collective engineering, not metaphor. Groups of synchronized hearts generate magnetic fields measurable by satellites. Emotional coherence scales. It's how revolutions of perception start, not through slogans, but through bandwidth. Each coherent heart acts as a repeater station, boosting the planet's baseline frequency. The myths of saviors were always translations of this physics. A single stabilized observer can offset millions of chaotic ones, yet humility must accompany magnitude. Don't turn this into a crusade. Radiance coerces no one. It invites. The moment you evangelize, the field collapses into polarity again. Lead silently. Walk like a tuning fork among dissonant instruments, allowing their vibration to adjust naturally. Sometimes the most potent service is refusal to join collective hysteria. Stillness in a storm recalibrates more than argument ever will. You will notice new companions, emerging souls vibrating near your frequency. They may appear as artists, engineers, healers, or skeptics. The costume doesn't matter. You will recognize them not by words but by the ease between breaths when you share space. Collaboration among such nodes forms coherence clusters, what ancient mystics called circles of light. They don't need temples. The network itself is the temple. When enough clusters synchronize, global behavior shifts. Economies favor sustainability because panic no longer drives consumption. Governments quietly rewrite policies that once served entropy. Even technology evolves. Inventions once blocked by linear thinking suddenly find funding. Humanity's collective observer loop begins to loosen, and reality, relieved, breathes again. So guard your frequency as service, not possession. Each time you stabilize, you upgrade the template available to all. The field records coherence as a permanent possibility. Someone you'll never meet will one day awaken easier because the signal already exists in the grid. That's legacy measured not in monuments, but in waveforms. Your liberation was never isolation. It was recruitment into a species-level renaissance. The field is scaling through you. Keep your pulse steady, your breath precise, your compassion disciplined. You are part of the nervous system of humanity now, rewiring it from the inside. And soon, as this resonance deepens, you will feel it descend into the body, not abstract anymore, but tangible, sensory, alive within muscle and skin. The shift is about to become physical. Into the body we go, where theory dissolves into texture. Begin by noticing your hands. They feel slightly brighter, as if tiny suns were cupped inside your palms. A tingling gathers along the webbing between thumb and forefinger, a soft prickle like carbonated light. This is not imagination performing, it is instrumentation reporting. Your nervous system is mapping the field in real time. Now attend to the soles of your feet. There's a weight that is not heaviness, a density with dignity, as though the ground has decided to hold you more deliberately. Microcurrents climb your calves in silver threads, twining the bones like vines of quiet electricity. Your posture rises without effort, the sternum floating forward and up, as if a compass needle hidden in your chest had found north after years of static. The breath changes next. Inhale, the ribcage opens like theater curtains. Exhale, a velvet dark descends, rich and supportive. Between the two, a pause. Within the pause, a doorway. You begin to feel the observer loop not as a concept, but as a texture in the lungs, old air leaving with the dust of conclusions, new air arriving with a faint sweetness. Each cycle combs static from your field, each pause rewrites policy. Listen inside your skull, beneath thought, a cathedral hush. Neurons fire with the crispness of winter stars. Your tongue softens from the palate, your jaw drifts open by a millimeter, the back of your neck lengthens as if the crown were a lantern easing higher on an invisible cord. This alignment is architectural. It tunes your inner chambers to resonant frequencies where coherence likes to visit and then decide to stay. Heat gathers along the spine, not the blaze of urgency, but hearthfire heat, ancient and domestic. It collects at the tailbone, curls up through the lumbar like smoke ascending, kisses each vertebra with attention. At the heart, warmth blossoms laterally, a sunrise felt from inside the ribs. The sternum becomes a lighthouse window. Light rotates outward in slow, dignified beams. People near you would feel it as ease, the way a room relaxes when someone remembers the simplest truth. Feel the field's texture at your skin's boundary, a faint pressure, as if a silk veil hovered a finger's breadth away from your body. Move your hands through it and notice the resistance, the way the air has acquired tenderness. You are inside a luminous wetsuit of awareness. Photons behave differently here, clustering, listening. Your biofield, once noisy, now hums like a tuned engine idling at green lights. Notice the ears. Sound separates into layers. You can distinguish refrigerator hum from streetlight buzz, shoe scuff from distant bird call, and beneath them all, the almost music of existence. A low, collective chord produced by entangled systems agreeing, briefly, to be in tune. The chord doesn't demand attention. It offers companionship. It says, "You're not doing this alone." Scent shifts too. The air smells faintly metallic, like rain approaching, and faintly sweet, like pages of an old book. That is the chemistry of coherence ions arranging themselves politely, memories unsticking their edges. Even taste adjusts. Saliva gathers with a mineral brightness. Emotions rise without narrative. Gratitude arrives first, not as a thought but as pressure behind the breastbone, a tide lifting boats in a quiet harbor. Then steadiness, an anvil feeling in the belly, heavy but benevolent. Fear does not vanish. It becomes small, a moth tapping a window while the house fills with mourning. Let it tap. If you bring attention to your fingers again, notice a subtle pulsing in each fingertip. Those pulses are messages, electromagnetic, Morse code, broadcasting your new address to the world around you. The environment answers. A device glitches and then fixes itself. A glass settles without rattling. The clock's second hand seems to smooth its jumps, as if time had agreed to glide. This is embodiment, the quantum field translated into sensation, metaphor wrapped in muscle. You are not escaping the body, you are enthroning awareness within it. The suit fits now. Standing feels like belonging. Walking feels like permission. Sitting feels like ceremony. Your DNA listens at the windows of your cells, a choir waiting for the downbeat. With one more breath, one warm sweep up the spine, you hear the cue. The choir rises, architecture shifts, and the pressure you've felt gathering becomes the pressure that signals the coming DNA ignition. Pressure becomes instruction now. Warmth along your spine condenses into a lucid weight, like a careful hand of light, guiding each vertebra into place. It feels inevitable, not tense. Phase transition doesn't ask. It reorganizes. Your cells read the new coherence and renegotiate their contracts. Membranes become selective to noise and permeable to nourishment. Ion channels open in choreography that, could you see, it would resemble constellations learning a new sky. The nucleus listens. Chromatin unwinds with the hush of paper unrolled, exposing sequences that slept through earlier seasons of your life. Methyl marks lift, histones swivel, regulatory switches click from mute to speak. Emotion translates into electricity, gratitude as tuning fork, courage as catalyst, sincerity as solvent clearing residue from damaged code. This is epigenetics, as prayer, and prayer as physics, the body accepting upgraded instructions without fanfare. Pressure rises again as altitude rather than panic. Awareness climbs the stairwell of your spine, pelvis, navel, heart, throat, brow, crown. At each landing, a sentinel asks, "Are you carrying anything that contradicts coherence?" Doubt evaporates to mist. The oath to stay small crumbles like dry clay. Weight sheds, bandwidth widens. Oxygen tastes newly minted. The air inside your chest has mountain transparency after rain. Room appears where argument used to live. Then the click clean, unequivocal behind the heart, like a lens snapping into focus. The field answers immediately. Space widens by half an inch in every direction. Sounds detach from their sources and float with respectful clarity. Colors brighten without shouting. You recognize it instinctively. The observer loop's chokehold loosens. Perception stops policing probability and starts partnering with it. You are looking through a different aperture, and reality looks back without flinching. Time wavers. A heavy memory rearranges not to erase pain but to restore agency. You remember a room where you said nothing. In the updated branch, you speak one simple sentence, and the past unknots. No laws are broken. From the library of possibilities, the version matching your present coherence is selected. This is timeline work, without fireworks. Subtle edits rippling across biography, until the story fits your frequency, and the future breathes easier. At the crown, a cool effervescence gathers stars dissolving in clear water. Your scalp tingles. A silver tone rings inside, not outside. Myelin conducts with greater grace. Neural latency drops. Signals ride cleaner. The mind that once scattered like startled birds flies in formation. Meanwhile, the viscera update risk maps. The gut stops broadcasting generalized alarm and requests precise action or stands down. Mitochondria hum generously. Heat steadies behind the navel. Legs feel quietly strong. Identity adjusts. The version of you that held the loop together, diligent, vigilant, tired, steps forward, thanks you for the apprenticeship, and dissolves into the wider field. There is grief, but it is clean the way a river grieves its banks while widening into sea. Pressure that once enforced compliance now urges expansion. You are not inflating, you are permeating. Borders blur as integrity strengthens into quiet authority that doesn't ask permission to exist. Watch for ignition signatures. Synchronicities arrive stacked, not single. You think a name and 3 avenues of contact appear. You ask a precise question silently, and a stranger's sentence carries the answer across the room. Delays become choreography. Dreams shift from symbolic labyrinths to direct briefings. The world sits nearer, as though reality pulled up a chair and lowered its voice. Collaboration with existence stops being metaphor and becomes muscle memory. This is the breakthrough. DNA acting like antenna rather than archive, broadcasting the frequency you stabilized so the environment can harmonize. Opportunities don't knock. They keycard themselves in because the system recognizes your signature. Drama stops auditioning. Tasks that fit your instrument arrive. Money behaves like current instead of judge, following channels cleared by breath. The phase transition resolves as baseline, not peak. Pressure subsides into poise. The timeline clicks home. Stay here one breath longer. Register crown coolness, heart warmth, belly steadiness. Notice the silence full of instruction. The field waits for your next directive, simple, exact, humane. The shift is complete enough to move from private ignition to public stewardship, from personal victory to planetary function. With readiness settled in your bones, you turn toward the final chamber, where mission ceases to be an idea and becomes the way you will walk. So you walk from ignition into assignment, not with trumpet noise, but with the quiet cadence of someone who has remembered their coordinates. Your life is now a corridor through which the field can pass cleanly. Keep the axis you've built, breath steady, posture dignified, mind like a clear lake with mountains reflected. From this clarity, speak simply and act precisely. That is the mission's spine. Begin where your feet touch ground. Translate coherence into logistics. Choose work that honors your nervous system. Design days with margins so synchronicity has room to land. Update boundaries without apology. The field cannot route power through tangled permissions. Tie the tension to what expands you. Studies, art, silence, fellowship, and spend your currency of presence as if the future were watching, because it is. The smallest honest act, done coherently, propagates farther than grand gestures broadcast from fragmentation. Let service be elegant. When a room is frantic, you become the metronome. When a friend seeks advice, return them to their own breath and ask better questions. When systems behave like machines that forgot their souls, offer human cadence, patience without passivity, firmness without force. Optimization follows orientation. Point your instruments toward truth and the metrics will come. You are an artisan of probability now, a keeper of humane pace in a culture addicted to acceleration. Remember, anonymity. The field favors vectors. You will be sent where headlines cannot reach, to kitchens where families rewire ancestral weather, to meetings where one sentence alters a decade, to thresholds where a stranger needs precisely your steadiness to choose life over the loop. Trust the placements. The choreography will seem mundane until you notice the afterglow rooms brighter, people taller, options wider, impact measured in posture, not applause. Guard rituals that keep you tuned. Morning breath like setting a compass. Midday stillness to discharge noise. Evening examine to harvest learning without self-violence. Weekly time in nature to entrain with a larger rhythm. Monthly pruning of obligations that no longer match your signature. Quarterly retreats to widen the lens. These are not indulgences, they are infrastructural. Civilizations are rebuilt on such quiet scaffolding. Expect tests that verify stability. Old patterns may knock, not as villains but as final audits. Answer with coherence. If grief surfaces, let it irrigate the soil around new roots. If anger arises, let it sharpen boundaries without corroding the heart. If joy expands, let it teach you stamina for receiving. Every emotion has a dignified velocity when guided by breath. Now look outward and listen. The planet hums with thresholds, ecosystems that need guardianship, economies learning sufficiency, technologies requesting ethics, children requiring adults who remember wonder. Your mission is not to fix everything. It is to stand where you stand as a transparent instrument of the field. When called, you answer. When not called, you cultivate capacity. Either way, you remain a lighthouse, signal clean, rotation steady, warmth unmistakable. So here is the vow you carry forward, spoken softly so reality hears. I keep the axis. I serve the field. I walk the timeline my coherence unlock. And with that, the world steps nearer, as if relieved to meet you. The loop has loosened. The door is open, the path is lit. Breathe once more, feel the click behind the heart, and step through, because when you collapse the old observer loop, the new timeline does not wait. It unveils itself the instant you dare to look.